We just reading the parables. But they knew. They had this spiritual revelation. It's nothing new under the sun. But you come speak this, they don't know what they're talking about. But now, in this season, they will receive this word. You know what? Because Luke 11, one wiser than Solomon has come, as prophet said. Because now we got wisdom to break this down naturally and spiritually. And in their lives, what we're going through. Do y'all see? It's not no creflo dollar, big church, big house, big car. When we get ready to walk into y'all, listen, God's doing his part. When we get ready to go forth in y'all, you're going to have this wisdom. You're going to have this wisdom to watch movies. Now, you don't even understand. That movie was crazy. That movie was awesome. We run around in circles. Man, did you see that by the Spirit? You know, but in the natural, you're like, that didn't make sense. No, because the carnal mind, it don't make sense to the carnal. But you look at it in the spirit, you was like, man, it's a prophecy. But I just had to say that because prophet opened up, so I'm going to sit down. It's going to be a lot, but I'm going to tie it all into where we're at because this is not in the chapter, but it ties in. Isaiah 55, starting at verse 10 through 13. For as the rain cometh down and the snow from heaven, and returneth not thither, but watereth the earth, the natural, and maketh bring forth and bud, that it may give seed to the sower, and bread to the eater. So shall my word be that go forth out of my mouth. It shall not return unto me void, but it shall accomplish that which I please, and it shall prosper in the thing whereto I sent it, us being spoken from God. For ye shall go out with joy, and be led forth with peace. The mountains and the hills shall break forth before you into singing. Because all the mountain, all the trials and tribulations, everything that we've been climbing up, all the hills where we struggled to go uphill, we've been fighting uphill to get past this poverty. We've been fighting uphill to get past burdens in our relationship, on the clock, with our friendships, with negativity. We've always been looking for a downhill, something that we could coast down, we no longer have to struggle with. But through all the places that we climbed that were so large and looked like there was such a big obstacle, that big mountain, how am I going to get to the top of Everest? That's going to break forth some singing, because even that is going to be the praise from the lips that you deliver to God, because you made it through to that other side. And all the trees of the field shall clap their hands. And that field is the place where we've been planting, where we've been sowing within our heart. That field is our heart, where we've been planting and sowing worship unto God. And the trees is the many-membered body that move as men are trees, the trees that bear good fruit. And clapping in the hands, because when you clap your hands, you join your hands, the gifting that you have. Instead of the thorn shall come up the fir tree, because that thorn is a thorn in our flesh. It used to be the only thing that drove you into the Spirit of God was your poverty. The only thing that drove you closer to God was a broken relationship you went through. The only thing that broke you to get down on your knees to come to God was the trials and tribulations that you went through. But instead of Paul, where he said, take this thorn from my flesh, but thy grace is sufficient. Okay, because I can't rest in this fleshly carnal understanding of how I understand the events and circumstances that I go through in my life. But your grace, your spirit, your everlasting eternity, your understanding is sufficient enough for me to rest within. Instead of the thorn shall come up a fir tree. Because in all the places where we've been planting that seed, that fir tree is green. It's life. So instead of that thorn that used to push us more deeper into the Spirit, the only way that I would go deeper into the Spirit and worship God was because of the financial troubles that I was having. Now instead of that being the only thing that presses me in, now it's going to be that fir tree, that strength that grows up in the midst of the field of everything that we've been planting and sowing within the times when it was raining, within the time that there was a drought. Even in the planting that they planted, they always went through a season that seed didn't grow up quickly. And instead of the briar shall come up the myrtle tree. Because if you've ever been out in the wilderness, that briar, it'll stick right in you, and it'll agitate your skin. It'll just stick in your clothes, and it's difficult to get out. And it shall be to the Lord for a name, for an everlasting sign that shall not be cut off. Because that's the identity. When we move into the identity, the name of the Lord, of who God is within us, is an everlasting sign. So now, instead of me looking for a sign outside of myself and looking upon my natural circumstance, I'm seeing that the place where God has me in the Spirit, the peace and rest that He's given me, is an everlasting sign that can never be cut off. We don't have to constantly go through the struggle just to be pressed into the Spirit. That's why we can walk into the next realm of what God has for us in finances, being blessed with natural things, and it won't hold any relevance because it's not going to inhibit
my desire and the way that I seek after Father God. And I know there was a lot to go over, and you're like, well, what does that have to do with anything that we're reading? So we'll go back to Genesis 49, verse 14. Issachar means wrestling. Is a strong ass couching down between two burdens. So every place that we've wrestled with God is that strong donkey. It's that strong weight carrier, because that donkey would carry the weight and is crouching down between two burdens. That two burdens is a witness. My yoke is easy, my burden is light. So as we step into the light, we step into that yoke, we're being broken, we're carrying a burden. We carry our cross. Carry your cross and follow me as I follow Christ. Don't carry Jesus' cross. Carry your cross and follow me as I follow Christ, as I follow this anointing, as I follow and get deeper into an understanding of who God is within me and who I am within him. And he said, he saw that the rest was good, because there's rest in the spirit when you're carrying this burden. When you have this understanding, you're no longer wrestling within the flesh, within that carnal mind. You're no longer wrestling against the thorn, because come on, that thorn is taken away. Now it's a fir tree. Now instead of the poverty driving me into the spirit, it's the riches. I have the riches, but it's the riches and wisdom of God that's drawing me closer, because I hunger, and that's that bread, that sower for the bread so that the eater can eat. Because I'm hungry. I want to eat what's rich, the wisdom of God. So that's what's drawing me closer. Not because, oh man, if you didn't have poverty, then you wouldn't be pressed closer to God. But there are people who aren't impoverished, who aren't going through trials and tribulations. So now it's like the next level is like, how long? You go uphill, eventually you reach the crest. You don't go uphill all your life. There is eventually a downhill. And he saw that the rest was good, and the land, that it was pleasant, because that land is the field. You see that that's pleasant because, look, all this time that I've been spending sowing seed, getting into worship with God, now it's coming forth, and I see that it's good. I'm seeing that there's rest in here, and I bow down the shoulder to bear, because now the place where I'm being anointed by God, because even as the knights were anointed, the king would anoint their shoulder, because that's the platform of what carries the yoke. The donkey carries the yoke from the shoulders. And now I know I can bear this, because I see that all the rest that God has given me and the peace that he's given me within my mind, I know I can carry this burden. I know I can go through this natural circumstance, and it's really not nothing, because through pressing into God, God has changed my understanding and the way that I perceived it. So now I'm not seeing it as a major mountain. It's breaking forth into singing. And became a servant unto tribute. Because now we're serving the place where we once were warring against. So Issachar changed from wrestling to becoming a servant unto tribute. I just wanted to share because last year I went out to Red Rock, and I went out with Adam, the first man of the earthling. Praise God for him. And we went to go bike riding, but we had mountain bike tires. There's a 13-mile loop. The first 5 miles of the loop is all uphill. It's all uphill, and then it's struggle. And we got probably 4 miles, and both of us broke down. Our legs were burning. We got to turn around. We can't do this. We can't go forward anymore, and it's starting to get dark. Yesterday, we went out there, and we hit that 5th mile. And that 5th mile was from elevation 242 feet up to 1,242 feet. So we were steadily climbing, just pushing the whole way, just talking about the rest and taking our time and enjoying God's green earth. And when we got to the top, it was all downhill, all from that place. And it was such a revelation, because God was showing me, that time before when you gave up, you didn't know how close you were. Sometimes you can't see the crest of the hill of how high you're climbing up. You can't see the crest of the hill of how far you've been going, and you want to give up, and you're crying out, God, give me some downhills. I've been giving you downhills the whole time you've been going up them. And then once you get to the top, once you get to the crest, all that labor that you've been doing in the Spirit, all the worship just to get pressing forth, just to get higher in God, just to get a higher understanding, you reach that crest, and now your labor has not been in vain, because now you can coast. Now you can gain that speed. You can gain that quickening as the Spirit quickens you. You're quickened by the Spirit. Now you're gaining that speed to go down. And we were in about 50, 60 miles on the bike going downhill. And it was 5 miles all uphill. That's God's grace. Your grace is sufficient for me to keep pressing, even though I have this thorn in my flesh. Through my circumstance, I'm going to keep going up this hill, because I'm not going to let this defeat me. And then the rest of the 8 miles, new beginning, was downhill, where it was just a fast, it was a quickening spirit. It was a new beginning. And God was showing us this relevant word for the whole body, because all the pressing that we've been going forth in is all the labor of what we've been sowing. And we're making it to that crest. But once you make it to the crest, come on, if you see it, you don't see the crest, and you're like, I'm ready to turn back now. And that crest is like 30 feet away, but you can't see it because we only see in parts and bits and pieces. We can have a figment of a vision of what is to come. But when that which is perfect is come, prophecy is done away with. God will open and reveal certain aspects within our lives, and then we'll see a glimpse of the vision. Joseph had a glimpse of the vision of what he was going to walk in with the 11 stars. But when he was cast into the pit, he didn't say, you know what, this is injustice. I can't believe you're throwing me into the prison. I didn't do anything wrong. He just, not once did he complain to God. He just said, this is life. But he kept that covenant with God. He kept that maturity. He kept that gifting going forth. And he kept exercising that within the darkness. Because the prison back in those days were underground and they were dark. So within that darkness, he kept that gifting going of the interpretation of the dream, because Joseph realized his life was a dream. So through that maturity and that gifting, if he didn't keep exercising that, if you don't keep exercising the gifting, if you don't keep going forth within the very thing, a man's gift makes room for itself and will bring you amongst the council of those who are rich. It will bring your own wealth. Your own gifting, if you keep exercising it within a maturity, will make room for itself. You keep pressing outside of the church, you're on the clock, you're on the job, you're around a friend, God quickens you, you speak a word. That gifting makes room for itself. But we're looking for a natural manifestation of a powerful move of God, when God is in the simplest things that we overlook. And I'm saying one more thing, I'm going to close it out. There's this woman who, her dream, her vision was to swim the English Channel. And she swam 19 and a half hours, and there was a boat next to her the whole way just to make sure she won't drown. That was her dream, her goal. She wanted to break the record. So she's swimming. 19 and a half hours, she's tired. Fall came. Nighttime, she couldn't see the shore. She cried out, I can't do it anymore. They brought her in the boat, rowed her to shore. 2 minutes later, she got down on shore and she broke down crying. She said it is only 30 minutes away. Sometimes we don't see where the shore is, and how much we've been struggling against the stream of everything that's been pushing us back, and people have been saying you're never going to make it. And we keep struggling against that. We're fighting against the stream to get to that other side, because that's where the promised land is. God is on both sides of the river, because we're going to see God. But 19 and a half hours into it, we'll give up and cry out to God, and God will honor our decision. He's like, you know what? You're my son, you're my daughter. I'm going to honor the decision that you make. Regardless, it's both God, if we decide to persevere and keep going, or if we decide to stay at the camp of the sword. If we decide either way, if we decide to keep going or just give up and turn back the other way, it's still God. But that crest is coming. And if we just keep pedaling and pace ourselves and plan for things that are 10 years off as though they were tomorrow, and things tomorrow as though they were 10 years off, the art of war, Sun Tzu. If we have that warfare built up within our mind, the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but mighty through God for pulling down of strongholds. So this prayer, this worship is not in vain. The more that we press into the Spirit of God, the more that we press in to worship and get in our true identity in the form, the image of who God is within us, the more that we reach that crest, and then it's no longer a struggle. So it's just a struggle to press in. But once you're there, it's an open field.